All right, let's jump right in. Today we are tackling what is, without a doubt, the single most critical decision you will ever make if you want to get into freight brokerage. And spoiler alert, it has nothing to do with your first customer or your first load. It's about your very first step, the one that can decide if you're going to succeed or fail before you even really start.
So, let's just ask the big elephant in the room question right up front. Why do so many new freight brokers fail? I mean, you see it all the time, right? Someone gets in, they're full of enthusiasm, they've got some cash, and then boom, a year later, they're gone. What is really going on there?
Now, your first guess might be that they just didn't work hard enough, that they didn't have the hustle. But honestly, that's a total myth. The real reason is way more strategic, and it's a choice that's made long before the first phone call ever happens.
And this gets us to what we can call the broker failure myth. The truth is, most brokers don't flame out because they're lazy. They fail because they enter the industry from completely the wrong position. Your starting point, that initial choice, it literally sets the stage for everything else.
Just think about what this one choice determines. It decides how much risk is sitting squarely on your shoulders. It dictates how many fires you're going to have to put out on a daily basis, and whether you have any backup at all when things inevitably go sideways. And maybe most importantly, it decides if a simple mistake is just a lesson learned, or if it's a mistake that ends your entire business.
So that brings us to the real core of this whole thing. For just a minute, forget about commission splits, forget about load boards. The real game you're playing in brokerage, it's all about risk.
And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? When you're new, you get drawn in by the dollar signs, by that income potential. But the brokers who've been around, the ones who are actually successful long-term, they're obsessed with something totally different: where to put the risk. They know that if you don't protect your downside, you'll never have an upside. And you have to remember, risk is just part of the deal. It's baked into every single shipment. You cannot eliminate it. So the strategic question isn't, is there risk? Of course there is. The real question is, who's going to carry it? Is it going to be you, out of your own pocket? Or is it going to be an organization with the experience and the resources to handle it? Okay, so let's get practical. Imagine you're standing at a fork in the road. There are 4 very different paths you can take to get into this industry. Each one places that risk we've been talking about in a very different spot.
So first step, you've got the broker-agent model. This is probably the most common starting point. It's where you work as an independent agent, but you're operating under the umbrella of a bigger, established brokerage. You're using their authority, their insurance, their whole system. And the trade-off here is super clear. The upside? You get into the game fast. You don't have to sweat all the compliance stuff, and you're working with real freight from day one. But, and this is a big but, look at the hidden limitations. You have almost no control when a dispute happens. You're totally dependent on what the main brokerage decides. And yeah, that commission structure you like, it could change. Basically, you're trading control for a safety net.
All right, path number 2. This is another really common one, the dispatcher who decides, hey, I'm going to become a broker. And on the surface, that makes perfect sense, right? But there's a huge knowledge gap here that trips up so many people.
Look, being a dispatcher teaches you some incredibly valuable skills. You know how to think like a carrier. You're a pro at negotiating rates. You know the load boards inside and out. But look at what it doesn't teach you. It doesn't teach you a thing about a broker's legal liability, your exposure to cargo claims, or how to manage what a shipper expects. You know one side of the coin perfectly, but you're completely blind to the other.
Now, our third path is a little less direct. It's not as flashy, but man, it can be incredibly powerful. This is where you start out in an internal support role at a brokerage. You know, doing things like load tracking, handling documents, or carrier onboarding.
And the value here is just immense. This path is not about making a quick buck. It is all about building a deep, fundamental awareness of risk. You get a front row seat to see exactly how disputes are handled, where the company's processes break down, and how miscommunication causes chaos, and you see it all in a controlled environment where the consequences don't land on you. It's basically a paid apprenticeship in risk management.
And that brings us to path number 4, the go-for-it-all approach. This is getting your own MC authority and starting your own brokerage from scratch on day one. It gives you the most control, but, you guessed it, it also comes with the absolute most exposure.
So many people think that getting your own authority is like a magic wand that gives you instant legitimacy, but the reality is much, much harsher. That authority doesn't protect you, it magnifies every single mistake you make. One badly handled cargo claim, one dispute you mess up, and it can wipe you out financially before you've even gotten your feet wet.
Okay, so we've laid out the 4 paths. Now, the question has to shift.
It's not about understanding the options anymore. It's about understanding yourself. Which one of these paths actually fits who you are?
So, it's time for a little honest self-assessment. You have to take a hard look at your own personality, your finances, and your tolerance for conflict before you make a move. There is no single best path. There's only the path that's right for you.
So ask yourself these questions. Seriously, do you have the financial cushion to survive a massive cargo claim hitting you out of the blue? How do you really handle conflict? Are you willing to have those tough conversations, confronting a shipper about detention or a carrier about being late? And can you document everything and enforce the boundaries you set? Your honest answers here are going to point you in the right direction. All right, let's bring this all home. It should be pretty clear by now that your first move in this business isn't just a starting point. It literally sets the entire trajectory for the rest of your career. And this chart just perfectly illustrates the two outcomes. If you make a smart entry, you set yourself up to be a strategic broker, someone who builds systems and actually controls disputes. You're in the driver's seat. The wrong path? It traps you into being a transactional broker, where you're just constantly chasing the next load and reacting to problems all day long. At the end of the day, what it all boils down to is this. Career durability is so much more important than early income. Building a real sustainable business that lasts for years is all about smart positioning and managing risk, not about a mad dash for a quick commission check.
And that leaves us with one last thought to chew on. Your first and most important decision as a new broker has nothing to do with freight. It's not about which load to book or which customer to call. It is about where to place the risk. So the only question left is, where are you going to place yours?